Now, just back from Spain is African brand authority from the brand leadership group Thebe Ikalafeng, who's presented, I'm told, an interesting perspective on African design and its influence on global culture. He was a guest at the prestigious and well-known Ecograda Design Week in Madrid. Essentially, has the Vuvuzela cemented its place in popular world culture, or is it about to? Thebe, a very warm welcome, and thanks very much for joining us. So, is that Vuvuzela here to stay?
Well, the Vuvuzela is here to stay. The Mexican wave is gone. Matter of fact, I think the Vuvuzela is really a bigger metaphor for how South Africa or Africa itself can become a vehicle for creating new trends, sustainable trends in the world, which impact how people view South Africa, or how people celebrate themselves, or how people connect to the African continent.
Come on, Thebe, how does the world see this continent through the end of a Vuvuzela? What are you saying?
I'll tell you what, as I got onto the aeroplane at OR Tambo last week, I was amazed because I was with Americans, with Italians, with people from everywhere else, and they all had a Vuvuzela. And when I arrived at Ecograda, people said to me, "Did you bring us Vuvuzelas?" I said, "What you guys going to do with this?" I said, "It's an amazing tool to celebrate, to encourage, to motivate your team." So the same way that in South Africa, in anywhere else in the world, we're doing the Mexican wave, that's how you're going to see people are celebrating football. Now, matter of fact, last week I think the Florida Marlins gave 15,000 Vuvuzelas to every single fans who came in to use them to motivate their team.
All right, in a moment we'll talk about how to export it and how to use it. But before that, how did it manage to entrench itself so quickly, do you think?
I think what works so well about the Vuvuzela is that when people arrived here, of course the beauty about it started last year, if you remember, the Confederation Cup, with South Africa doing very well. People started to say, so how do South Africans express support behind the team? And they saw these ubiquitous instruments, which are really an extension of or creation of or evolution of an African horn, if you will, which were ubiquitous everywhere else in the stadium around the Confed Cup. And then this year, of course, and the fact that people kept talking about them, because you and I know these things are quite irritating to a non-refined ear, if you will. And the fact that Sepp Blatter and everybody else started complaining about them actually magnified their impact. And that's how the word started going around the world.
Right, so it's become an icon in many ways of South African and African design. The next step then is to ingratiate this into popular global design culture. Is that an aspiration, or is it something that can be done?
Well, Africans have always been able to do that, and it's just that we probably never gave ourselves enough credit. You know, if you look at some of the things that I looked at Ecograda, for example, I looked at Sarki Bartman, whom the French ridiculed many centuries ago because of a very African behind, which in an African culture we celebrate that. Now, an organization like Levi took that inspiration and said, well, a big behind, which J-Lo, which Beyonce and everybody else have, is actually not something to ridicule, but something to design around. And that's how the Eva jeans came about, which are designed around the behind of an African woman. And these are now available everywhere else in the world. So that's South Africa exporting its own idea or interpretation of a global idea into the big world.
I'm thinking of vuvuzelas, I'm thinking of zebras, which is perhaps another icon. Well, but surely these can be overused, though. I mean, at what point do they reach the threshold where they simply become cliches?
Well, they become cliche when they lose meaning. And if you look at the instance of the zebra with the Investec, for example, how when they asked the marketing director of Investec, why are you using a zebra in London when you're competing against the HSBCs, the Lloyds, and all those? He said, when people look at it, at a communication from Investec, they will say, here is an idea and a location or a symbol of the origin of this brand. You see, the secret of great American brands and who dominate 80% of the world's top 100 brands is that they never exported the flag, but they exported a way of doing things, a way of being. And that's why they dominate the world. What Africa has failed to do is been failing to export an African way and celebrating an African way of doing things. But I think you look at the World Cup, for example, how the Calabash became the inspiration for the biggest World Cup stadia in FIFA's history. So that is Africa being able now to say, let us be happy with who we are. Let us celebrate our culture, our symbolism, and let's export that to the world.
Thebe Ikalafeng, I appreciate the insight. I always appreciate the energy. We'll see you soon. Come and visit us again.
Thank you very much,
Jeremy. Appreciate your time. Thebe Ikalafeng from the brand leadership group here on MAGGS on Media. Now, a red card this week to FIFA and a green to the Gautrain. Jeremy Sampson's brand hit parade is next.